The man standing beside my coworker at her engagement party was my sister's husband. He was holding her hand, wearing the watch my sister had bought him, and smiling beneath a banner with a different name printed on it. But the most disturbing part was not seeing him there. It was the look on his face when he saw me. Natalie had joined our accounting firm 7 months earlier. We became close during long afternoons of fixing client reports. She was funny, generous, and private about her relationship. She called her fiancé Adam, but rarely showed anyone his photos. She said he worked in regional sales and traveled often. That detail meant nothing to me at first. My sister Rachel's husband, Ben, also traveled for work. He had been a corporate trainer for years and was away several nights each month. Lots of people traveled for work, so I never connected the two men. Rachel and Ben had been married for 9 years and had two young children. Their marriage looked ordinary. They argued about money and chores, but they also hosted family dinners and took cheerful vacation photos. Ben was quiet around me, though always polite. A month before the party, Rachel mentioned small changes. Ben had added a passcode to his tablet and begun taking calls outside. His trips were getting longer, and he stopped giving her hotel details. He blamed changes at work. Then Natalie announced her engagement at work. Everyone crowded around her desk to see the ring. She said Adam had asked her to marry him after 18 months together. When someone requested a photo, she laughed and said he hated cameras. Then she invited our department to the party at her parents' house. One detail stayed with me. Natalie said Adam had been divorced for 3 years and had no children. I thought about Ben's travel for a few seconds, then dismissed it. I had never seen Adam. On the morning of the party, Rachel called me from her car. Ben had left for a training event and would be gone until Monday. Their son had asked why his father missed so many weekends. Rachel said she felt like a single parent inside a marriage. I almost told her about my strange thought, but I stopped. It felt unfair to create fear from one coincidence. I told her to write down the dates of his trips and have a direct conversation when he returned. That decision bothered me later because by then, another clue had already been sitting in front of me. The party was 45 minutes from my apartment. Near the entrance, one framed photo was turned toward the wall. I adjusted it and saw Natalie beside a man whose face was outside the frame. Only his arm and hand were visible. He wore a silver watch with a dark blue face. I had helped Rachel choose that watch for Ben's birthday the year before. My stomach tightened, but watches could be copied. I put the frame back and tried to calm myself. Natalie's mother offered me a drink and said the couple would come downstairs soon. I stood near the kitchen, staring at the staircase while people chatted around me. Then Natalie appeared. She was holding a man's hand. Ben came down behind her. For a moment, my mind refused to place him. His hair was styled differently, and he was wearing glasses I had never seen. Then he looked directly at me. His smile disappeared. His hand slipped away from Natalie's, and the glass he was carrying hit the edge of a step. That reaction removed every small doubt I still had. Natalie's father introduced him as Adam Lewis. Ben recovered quickly and gave me a stiff smile, as if we were strangers. I could hear my heart beat while Natalie brought him toward our group. She put a hand on his shoulder and said, "Adam, this is Maya, the coworker I told you about." He held out his hand. I did not take it. I asked where the bathroom was and walked away before my face exposed everything. Inside, I locked the door and called Rachel. She answered on the second ring. I asked where Ben was supposed to be. She said he was at a hotel conference in another city. Then she asked why my voice sounded strange. I told her I needed to send her a photo, but first I needed her to sit somewhere private. I stepped back into the hallway, took a picture through the open doorway, and sent it. Ben was beside Natalie beneath a banner that read, "Natalie and Adam." Rachel went silent for so long that I checked the screen to see whether the call had ended. When she finally spoke, she did not cry. She asked me to show her the banner again. Then she asked for the address. What happened over the next 20 minutes showed that Ben had prepared excuses for almost everything, except both women standing in the same room. I returned to the party and found him waiting near the bathroom. He spoke quietly and told me not to cause a scene. He said Rachel and he were basically separated, and that he had planned to explain everything soon. I asked why Rachel had made him breakfast that morning if they were separated. His face changed. He told me there were details I did not understand. Then he asked me to keep Natalie out of it. That was when Natalie walked around the corner and heard him use my sister's name. She asked who Rachel was. Ben started talking too quickly. He said Rachel was his former partner and that I was emotional because the breakup had been difficult for my family. Natalie looked at me, then at him. I opened my phone and showed her a family photo from 3 weeks earlier. Ben was sitting beside Rachel at their son's birthday dinner, wearing the same watch. Natalie's expression went empty. She asked him whether the children in the photo were his. He said nothing. That silence was the main answer. The music was still playing in the next room when Rachel arrived. She walked in holding her phone, with her face pale and controlled. Ben tried to move toward her, but she stepped back. Natalie's parents closed the living room doors and asked the guests to leave. No one shouted. That made the whole thing feel even heavier. Rachel placed her phone on the table. It showed messages Ben had sent her that morning. He had written that he had reached the conference hotel and would call the children before bed. Then Natalie opened her messages. At the same time, he had told her he was leaving his apartment and heading to the party. The two women began comparing dates. Every training trip from the past year matched a weekend or evening with Natalie. The apartment Ben claimed was his belonged to a coworker who traveled overseas for months at a time. He had used his middle name and his mother's maiden name with Natalie. He had told her his marriage ended years earlier. He had told Rachel that Natalie's calls were from a difficult client. Neither woman had been careless. He had built separate routines and filled each gap with a detailed explanation. Natalie removed her ring and set it on the table. She did not throw it or make a speech. She asked Ben to leave her parents' house. Rachel told him not to return home that night. He looked at me as if I had caused the damage, but I no longer felt guilty for being there. The consequences unfolded slowly. After getting legal advice, Rachel changed the locks and filed for separation. Account statements showed Ben had used family savings for hotels, gifts, and part of the engagement deposit. Natalie canceled the wedding arrangements and lost 2 deposits. She took a week away from work. On her first morning back, she sat in her car for nearly an hour before coming inside. I worried she would resent me. Instead, she asked how Rachel was coping. Rachel asked the same about her. They met at a quiet cafe to exchange information. Neither blamed the other. By the end, Natalie was crying, and Rachel reached across the table to hold her hand. Ben moved into a rented room and saw the children through an arrangement handled by Rachel's lawyer. Some relatives pushed her to reconsider. She said their years together were exactly why she could not return. Months later, Rachel said she still replayed that morning. Ben had kissed the children goodbye and taken the bag she packed for his fake conference. That ordinary moment hurt her more than the engagement photos. I carried guilt for not warning her when the first coincidence appeared. Rachel eventually stopped me during one of those apologies. She said a vague suspicion would not have changed Ben's choices. Seeing him at that party only ended the part where everyone else was being kept in the dark. Natalie later transferred to another branch, and we still exchange messages. Rachel is rebuilding her life carefully, without rushing herself or pretending the damage disappeared. The children know their parents live separately, but the adult details remain private. I went to that party expecting to celebrate a new beginning. Instead, I watched one carefully managed deception collapse in a single room. And in the end, the invitation meant for a coworker became the reason my sister finally saw the life being hidden from her.